So this is the brand new GAC Empow, and as you're gonna see, it's a sedan that's sort of shaking up the compact sedan segment because the car looks great. As you're gonna see here ngayon, it looks really great, but more importantly, it's driving quite really... Ooh, but... Huh? So, what we have here today is a GAC Empow. As you've seen kanina, we're joined today by Auto PH's Julian Panlilio. Say hi ka naman, no?
Hi.
So, of course, you know me, I'm Isaac Atienza of Go Flatout PH. Pero, apart from the introduction, so let's take a look at the GAC Empow. What Julian brought here today with us is the top-of-the-line GE variant. And as you can see, it's very striking with its matte green paint. But by and large naman, they do look similar with the GB variant. Pero the GE gets more flourishes. So let's start off with this variant first.
So first mapapansin nyo that this GE is more aggressive compared to the GB. So we have these areas here in the grill. I don't know what to call them.
Basically, yung grill niya is vertical yung pattern niya as opposed to the honeycomb-ish shape nung grill nung sa akin.
And also we have these faux openings right here.
Right.
So makes it look more aggressive. Makes it a lot more aggressive.
So you have this parang air dams on the side of the grill, no, with the yellow highlights.
And also the S.
Right, you have the S grill here. I don't know bakit nga ba S, no? Pero GE and tawag sa
It could be like something like sport, pero well,
dapat GE nilagay dito anyway. Or just you should have just called this sport or S na lang.
Actually.
Kasi GE, di ba? Then faux carbon fiber treatment here sa grill niya. I mean rather the bumper. Whereas dun sa akin, it's silver as you can see later. Then you have vertical DRL sa kanang headlights.
which come on both.
Yeah,
Both
same
have
naman
it.
for the both models. Pero ang striking talaga dito sa kanang matte green paint. It's the only color though that you could get for this model. So, unless you're a fan of green, this car will probably not be for you nga lang if you want other colors like silver or gray. Then apart from the matte green paint, the GE also gets 18-inch wheels, which look really nice, and inside those 18-inch wheels are yellow brake calipers.
With the Empow name.
Yes! Kaya mukhang kakala mo naka-Brembo kayo, no? Though these are not Brembo brakes, by the way, guys. These are not Brembo brakes. Then moving on to the side, you have this carbon fiber finish or faux carbon fiber pattern rather sa side mirrors. Then gloss black trimming for the windows. Pero in my case, it's actually chrome sa GE. Tama nga ba chrome, diba?
Yes.
Just to clarify, yes, it's chrome for the GE. For the GB pala rather, this is the GE, just to clarify.
And yeah, pretty much everything the side looks the same lang.
Right.
Right.
Except for the 18-inch wheels nga, which looks really nice. Then, moving towards the back, dito sa GE variant mo, na dala mo ngayon,
It's the biggest difference.
Ha?
It's the biggest difference na hindi na sa harap.
Right. The biggest difference that you're gonna see here is the rear bumper treatment. So, dito sa GE variant, meron ka nung quad exhaust finish sa kanang tailpipes. These are really true quad exhausts kasi doon sa GE or sa GB rather, they're just like parang faux exhaust treatment, but this is an actual quad exhaust tailpipe with active exhaust. And if we're gonna listen to the sound, it sounds really good when you put the car in sport mode with all those valves open. Then, yeah, that's pretty much it for the exterior of the GE variant. Let's now move on to the GB, to the silver unit that they have here.
So now let's move on to the GB. So, what do you have?
So being the mid-spec variant, the more important question is what do I not get compared to your GE? So, with the GB variant that you have here, medyo less aggressive yung forma niya. Though by and large, it's still mostly similar. So up front, yun nga, as mentioned kanina, yung grill niya sa different pattern and wala ka nung parang air dam niya sa side. Wala ka nung faux carbon fiber treatment sa sides ng grill niya. Inside, you have a silver finish. And then,
but you still have the faux carbon fiber on the...
Well, at least on the sides, on the side...
the real vents.
Same LED headlight treatment, but now you get more paint options, weirdly enough, for this variant. You have a gray, as you see with this car. Then, down the sides, yung wheels niya have gotten a bit smaller. So, instead of 18-inch wheels like in the GE, you now have 17-inch wheels for the GB. Then, you also have a matte faux carbon fiber treatment sa kanang mirrors. But, by the way, worth mentioning, here in the variant na to, ito sa GB, these are not power folding mirrors. These are manual folding lang. And, down the sides, they're largely similar except for the chrome trimming sa kanang roofline. Then moving towards the back of the GB variant, mas less aggressive din yung kanang rear bumper treatment. So yung kanang faux rear diffuser part, meron ka na ngayon ditong parang faux exhaust tips. These are not real exhaust tips unlike those sa GE. These are faux exhausts lang which try to, I guess, give it a sporty look. Pero yeah, the GE looks sporty in the rear part of the car.
But we still have dual exhaust down there, right?
Yeah, below those, there's still dual exhaust, but yung ano, they're pointed downwards na ngayon. But yeah, more or less, for a mid-spec variant, okay naman itsura niya, especially considering the price of this car. So, you're not exactly getting like a car na mukhang base version at the very least. So, you have that usual LED lighting pa rin here at the front and back. And stuff like smart entry, which by the way, works in a way na wala kang pindutan sa door handles. So what happens is when you move closer to the doors of the car, doon siya kusang mag-unlock. So it's quite useful since wala ka nang pindutin, and
Especially when you're carrying. Especially when you're holding lots of items.
exactly. So yeah, but, it's also the same case with the trunk. So pag tumayo ka sa likod ng trunk, that's when it's gonna open automatically kasi wala siyang trunk release from the outside. So yeah, that's I think a good time now for us to talk about the interior of the GAC Empow. We're here inside the GAC Empow now, and what do you think of the interior to? Baka bang ampaw dito sa loob?
Well, initially it looks very sleek, especially with the use of horizontal lines. Tapos yung mga parang soft, it looks soft kasi mga curves.
Right.
Hindi puro edges.
Parang that visually, like yung parang sabihin, hindi siya yung, it visually, it looks, I guess, relaxing or soft to the eyes because of the curviness ng mga shapes niya, mga ganun.
Hindi siya yung parang tinutusok ka.
Right. It's a good point to highlight, I think. And material quality wise, I think it's also pretty good, especially for the price.
Yeah, so kasi yung dashboard natin very soft.
Right.
And
Yun nga lang, at least for this variant, for this GB, hard plastics yung doors niya. Pero later in the GE, you're gonna see soft touch plastics yung doors niya. Pero
and all the plastics here feel good.
yeah, hindi siya yung hollow na parang like
Whether
Fisher-Price toy quality. Hindi mo siya yung ganung level.
whether sa door panel or sa center console,
Right.
they all feel solid.
And speaking of the center console, I actually like the rising center console design na floating thing kasi may storage dito underneath no center console eh. And parang it sort of gives like a cocoon vibe. It really feels very sporty because of the rising console thing din. And yun nga lang for the material ng console,
For me, it kind of looks cheap a bit.
right. I prefer yours do sa GE.
Yeah.
Na naka-glossy
The glossy
carbon
one.
faux pattern siya. Pero I'd rather, I guess, have this na compared sa gloss black plastic.
At least this won't get scratched.
Exactly.
So it's a so-so.
Yeah. Mixed bag. Also like the balance between hard or physical buttons with the infotainment, which we're gonna dive into a bit later. So meron ka ng volume control dito, remote controller here. Then more important for me, kung mapanood yung mga video reviews ko about cars, I don't like cars burning the climate controls in the infotainment. So I like the GAC still has the physical controls for the climate controls dito sa baba na kanyang screen.
At least yung mga important nandyan na.
Exactly.
Because the others are still in the screen.
At least there are more settings that you can dive through in the screen. Pero speaking of the screens, no, so okay, you have this single glass piece, which is very in vogue ngayon, to be honest. Parang like a lot of manufacturers are doing this, yung everything's housed in this single glass piece, so both the infotainment and the gauges. Yung gauges for me, the 7-inch screen, nitpicking na lang to, hindi mo to major, nitpicking lang siya, pero medyo, I guess, chintzy yung graphics niya.
But they do look good. Good enough.
Well, I mean, good enough, yeah. Oo. Ano lang siya, medyo, ano lang, nitpicking na lang siya. I still prefer, I guess, yung what Honda has with the graphics ng infotainment nila or their digital gauges. And
speak of the infotainment screen mismo and these screens, at least the infotainment works well enough.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very responsive, diba?
may mga sounds kang mga ganun, you can customize that aspect pa nga. You have Apple CarPlay, but no Android Auto. What you have is
Huawei HiCar.
whatever that is, saka Baidu Car Life. Then speaking of the screens pala, if you put the car in sport mode later, in sport plus mode, meron ka makikitang animations when you put the car in sport plus mode, which it will show you your sport displays. And in the case of the GE Empow, which has the paddle shifter sa manual mode, meron pa siyang parang top fighter
thing. And also good to note that this car doesn't have manual mode.
Yeah, itong GB variant. And the lower base version below pa nitong GE, wala rin siyang paddle shifters nor a manual mode. That's worth noting kasi that actually will more or less affect, or not affect, but like it's gonna somehow alter the experience compared to when you have the paddle shifters. Kasi syempre this is a sports sedan and you wanna have more control with this car. Pero
even
anyway,
with regular driving.
Sa bagay, yeah. Kasi with regular driving, you still wanna sometimes use the paddle shifters. Pero anyway, that's it for this car. I think it's a good time to hop in naman and see what's different with the GE variant. So now that we've migrated to the GE, and they're gonna see that there's a bit of a visual upgrade in terms of the interior nung itong kotse na to, no?
So first, I think we have the yellow accents all around. The yellow
especially
seating and most obvious.
Yeah, I think pinaka-obvious the yellow seat belts, which I actually really like. It adds a lot of personality to the interior.
Also the seats, we have yellow leather, some kind of material.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of leather pala, yung GB variant that I have doesn't have leather for the steering wheel, so naka-urethane steering siya. Here in the GE ngayon, that's when you finally get a leather steering wheel, which also
with the yellow stitching as well.
Yes, of course.
And yellow on center marker. Sporty.
Then yun nga, as mentioned kanina, yung kanyang faux carbon fiber trims ngayon na are glossy as opposed to dun sa kanina na it's matte lang.
And these look a lot better.
Yeah. And I would again happily prefer this then compared to glossy black kasi hindi siya nga yung madaling ng marka.
And also we have the soft touch plastic.
Yes! The doors now are finally in soft touch plastics. And
also the gray.
oh yeah, of course, yeah. Yung the gray
instead of all black.
Ngayon you have
gray.
Yes, you have now gray you have gray door cards and dito sa lower part ng dash. And well, more or less that's pretty much like the same na rin. Like apart from the visual aspect, the infotainment system, the gauges are the same. Also worth mentioning is yung kanyang vanity mirrors pala, by the way, dito sa GE pala, sorry. Itong sa GE have a light, pero yung sa GB wala. Then you also have a sunroof here. Even the GB, by the way. Even the
VTW.
Even the GB that I have, the GB variant has a sunroof, hindi lang ito. We're not sure lang if the base version has one, pero yeah.
Everything else is the same, diba?
Yeah.
So same instrument cluster, same infotainment, but we have dual zone automatic.
Yes, dual zone climate control. Speaking of which, you have dual zone climate control na dito pagdating sa GE, and also yung as mentioned kanina, the manual mode for the transmission with the paddle shifters. And also worth mentioning, we forgot then as well, the USB port here in the
for your dash cams.
Yes, exactly. Just like what Ford did with the F1, with the Ranger and the Ford Everett. Then speaking of the interior, let's move of course to the back seat. I mean, I'm gonna move to the back seat. So in just one clap, I've magically moved here to the back seats of the GAC Empow, and as you're gonna see, there's tons of legroom. Headroom is okay naman for me, pero someone taller than 5'11" might find the sloping roofline to eat into headspace a bit. But yun nga, there's a carve out here for your head to fit, and apart from the space, which is really good, as mentioned, you also have a USB port, your own climate control, or rather your own aircon vent pala, and your LED lights here, and the center armrest with the cup holder.
And there's only one aircon vent.
Yeah, that's also worth mentioning. There's only one aircon vent, so agawan ngayon yung mga zero sa likod on who gets the benefit of the aircon vent dahil dyan. One touch up down windows then even here at the back. That's also the case with the GB variant, by the way.
We also forgot to mention that we have lots of G. We have lots of G.
Actually, You have a G pattern sa seats though, and dito sa center
Armrest.
console armrest. And yeah, in terms of the interior, the visual aspect, it's pretty much the same here sa interior. Nga lang the plastics here at the back take a bit of a nose, well naman nose dive, but like a bit of a downgrade, I guess. Naman downgrade, but like basically basta, the point is it's a hard plastic at the back. Just like other brands din naman, it's medyo usual naman for...
Even the Honda Civic.
Yeah, yung Civic ganun din eh. Hard plastic sa likod. Pero minor lang naman, minor gripes. But yeah, it's still a nice place to be in sa backseat of the GAC Empow. So I think that's a good time for us naman to talk about the trunk space in the Empow.
Unfortunately for cargo space, GAC hasn't provided any numbers. But visually speaking, the Civic slightly offers more space, thanks to the Honda's more usable square shape and better space utilization. Pero based on our estimates, the Empow should be around 470 liters. Powering all versions of the GAC Empow is a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine, thus making this a very formidable Civic competitor. But unlike the Civic, the Empow uses a 7-speed wet dual-clutch transmission. And as you're gonna see later, unlike most Chinese DCTs, the Empow is actually one of the best.
So now that we are driving the GAC Empow on the open road, and what you're gonna notice immediately, I think, is yung kanang sporty looks are matched with a sporty driving experience, because the moment you start driving this car, mapapansin nyo agad na the steering feels very sharp, it's very responsive, and at the same time, the car is very comfortable to drive in everyday situations. So ito nga, we're in normal city or your village roads, if there's such a thing, and the car is relaxing, it's comfortable, the steering is light at the same time then, apart from having the ability to be responsive and sporty. And the suspension's dealing with the bumps really well. We're not in exactly very smooth concrete right now, and ang ganda ng ride niya. We're gonna be entering a few twisty roads in a bit, and we're gonna be switching the car to sport mode, because apart from just changing the throttle profile, the responsiveness of the gear changes, when we put the car in sport mode, that it actually also makes the car sound better.
It sounds sporty.
Exactly. So now we're gonna switch the car to sport mode, and you're gonna see a few graphics here.
Sport Plus.
Now in Sport Plus actually, and you're gonna see your sport displays here. And ewan ko kung narinig niyo yung change na yun, but the car sounds louder na ngayon. And that's because of the fact that this car, specifically this GE variant, meron kang active sports exhaust, or active valve exhaust rather. So when you put the car in sport mode, and ngayon let's put the car in manual mode na rin. Wow! There's a graphic that says top player is ready for fighting. Accept. Grabe, wow! If you've heard that, ang ganda ng tunog ng kanyang exhaust. So the keyword is exhaust. The engine sound is sakto lang. I wouldn't really be enthusiastic about the engine sound. Pero from the outside, in fact, you're gonna notice pa nga that there's a bit of burble, there's a bit of crescendo at higher revs, or when you rev the engine while naka-stop ka. It's not like yung aftermarket exhaust na parang tunog fart can sound. Kung sabihin natin,
Tunog latap.
oh, tunog latap. Here it really genuinely sounds good. There's a bit of tono sa tunog niya. Hindi siya yung maingay lang, may tono siya. That's the important part. And now that we're in twisty roads na nga, yun, everything has changed to a more responsive throttle input, mas responsive yung gear changes niya. Pero we're in manual mode, and the GE also, this variant has paddle shifters. May rev match pa nga siya ng maganda, oh. Yun nga. And speaking of fun, yung displays here are also quite fun, because meron siyang mga displays here sa infotainment mo ngayon when you're in Sport Plus mode, which shows your turbo, your oil pressure, water temperature. In that, basically this car is really very responsive to your inputs na. It's a true sports that at this point. And I'm not even gonna compare this to a Honda Civic. Sa totoo lang, kasi it feels like 80% of a Subaru WRX itong GAC Empow GE, because of yun nga, the exhaust modes niya, which sa totoo lang nga, as you're gonna see my review of the Super WX, ang tahimik niya, it's, I think, too refined. Well, I mean, refinement's a good thing, pero if you're not able to hear the engine na in a sporty car, parang, that's when, parang I want that refinement to dial down a bit. Pero here in the Empow, parang in some degree, this feels more WRX than the WRX pa nga eh. And basically, as you're gonna see, the chassis, the suspension, everything is well-tuned, well-calibrated in a sense that when you take this car sa corners, it just dances along with wherever you take the car to. Like yung responses, it really feels connected to you. This GAC Empow. And to a degree pa nga, I think more pa than the Honda Civic. Because yun nga, because of the mechanical noises that you're able to hear. But at the same time, as mentioned nga kanina, it's a very refined car. And that's the thing with this car, it really just flows with wherever you take it to. Talagang it's really gonna dance along. The brakes feel so solid. Wala siya masyadong brake fade even if you push this car from one corner to another. It's a really willing and capable dance partner. It's, again, I can't believe I'm saying this and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of controversy from saying this, pero this feels more connected, more sporty pa than the Honda Civic. And because of that, I'm gonna say this, and I think more connected pa nga than the Mazda 3. And kilala nyo ako for loving Mazdas, but yeah, GAC has really done a good job in designing a compact sedan that sa totoo lang pa nga feels more like an 80% of a Subaru WRX nga and not a Honda Civic competitor lang. And it's also worth mentioning that this car has a dual clutch transmission. So usually with Chinese cars, medyo I wouldn't have a good relationship with a car that has a DCT. Pero here in the Empow, it's actually one of its highlights pa nga. So okay, there's a little bit of lag or roughness pag at low speeds, like yung laro if you're confused between switching the gas and the brake. Pero for the most part, it's a willing companion pa nga when you shuffle through the gears manually. But here right now in the city or in ito nga yung mga normal roads lang natin, it's very refined, it's very smooth. The suspension's dealing with bumps really well, and the car is well insulated. And I think pa nga that's where one part where the Empow is also better pa nga than the Civic. It's the refinement aspect, and there's not a lot of wind noise, not a lot of road noise, kasi usually that's with Honda, kasi parang they have more road noise usually, pero compared to competition. But here in the Empow nga, they've sorted that part out really well then.
So it's my turn.
So, anong pakiramdam ngayon ng Empow here ngayon sa highway? Now that we're out of yung mga twisty roads natin.
Well, of course, almost 1 week na ako nag-drive nito. So, I've had some extensive driving of this on the highway, and I must say na it's a comfortable highway cruiser.
Right?
So, you have the sporty aspect, then we also have the comfortable, which is perfect for highway driving. Tapos, I actually mentioned in my review na this car does provide us some balance. And if you guys watched my our Honda Civic review pala, na I also mentioned there that the Civic provides lots of balance, but this one provides even more balance. Kasi we have, yun nga, the sporty aspect of it. Then we can also have the comfort for when we're on the highway or when we just want to drive regularly inside the city lang. Basta if you want to relax lang, if you're tired na just want to feel it like you're driving a really good car, this one provides everything that you want when it comes to that.
Saka speaking of the refinement part, yung sabi ko kanina, parang I think that this is a more refined car pa than the Civic.
I mean,
Would you agree?
We can feel it right now.
Kasi we're doing 100 ngayon eh, pero ang sobrang spooky ng pagka-quiet niya compared to usual Japanese competitors pa nga in fact.
It's like we're in a luxury SUV.
Yun na nga eh.
We're in a luxury sedan eh.
Parang
we're in a luxury SUV.
That's a lane departure warning by the way,
Yes.
sound na yun. Pero yun nga eh, parang the last time I felt a car to be this refined sa price category to, usually mga yung Hyundai Tucson for instance, parang that's another car that yung parang is punching above its weight class in terms of the refinement aspect. Ito rin Empow eh, it's very quiet ngayon even at 100 kph eh. Sobrang ganda nung sound insulation niya.
And also considering na this road is concrete.
Oh, concrete to.
Hindi siya asphalt,
Yeah, exactly.
So this is usual. It's supposed to be louder than usual, pero it's still very quiet.
Exactly. Kaya kung mapansin mo sa mga reviews ko, I always mention chassis rigidity. Ito kasi sobrang
squeaking dito.
Exactly, no squeaking, no vibrations going to the cabin. Kaya importante sa akin ng rigidity eh, because it's what will dictate how solid and refined the car is. Parang everything will follow through if a car is rigid. Yung refinement niya, yung handling niya, since parang yun nga, it's one inherent structure yung kotse. And I commend GAC for that. Like even yung GS for review ko pansin nyo, I like that car so much. And here in the Empow, parang this talagang a culmination of everything that GAC has done in the past years. They've condensed it in a sport sedan that manages to be both sporty nga, as you've seen kanina, and here ngayon sa highway, very comfortable and refined. And speaking of which, since we're in a highway na rin nga pala, anong fuel economy mo dito sa kotse ko? Which I'm pretty sure will be the same with me lang naman.
What's yours?
I've been doing around 11 to 12.
On the highway?
Hindi, kasi usually I do combined. Yun yung combined ko, 11 to 12.
Okay, but on the highway, we can get as much as 19 kilometers per liter based on my own testing. So, really good, diba?
Exactly.
Then, inside the city sa'yo ulit, 11 to 12.
Kasi yun yung combined ko. I do combined
Inside the
kasi.
city, I'm able to get around 12 kilometers per liter.
Which is again very impressive for a car with this much power.
Yeah, considering how much fun we're having with
Exactly.
the car. I mean, when I was driving this car on the highway, I was just pushing it. Syempre within the speed limits pa rin.
Of course. It's also worth mentioning, I think, the part na this car has the full suite of advanced driver assistance tech then, so you have automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning,
yes.
yung lane keeping or lane centering, medyo ano nga lang siya, no, medyo hit and miss. Like parang it's not as nice as, let's say, yung lane centering ng Honda Sensing or Toyota Safety Sense.
Well, yeah, honestly, Honda Sensing, nothing beats that so far. But I think it's still pretty good as it is compared to some other Chinese cars that we've tested, like the one from the Chang'an, yung mga ganun. So this one's still pretty good as it is.
Right, tsaka sa
I'm using it right now, see? But don't do this at home.
Sa bagay, okay, yeah, it's sort of able to to keep itself in the center of the lane pa rin. Pero yeah, Honda Sensing's better in the lane centering part no?
Yeah, but the adaptive cruise control also
one
of the best, diba?
So basically, adaptive cruise control nga is well calibrated. It drives like a human, hindi siya yung aggressive mag-gas or mag-brake. Talagang smooth pa rin siya mag-drive. And it works in stop and go traffic, so that's a good part about it. It's gonna be useful kapag nasa EDSA ka or let's say may traffic sa NLEX. And basically, that's the thing with the GAC Empow. Talaga, we're enjoying this car so much, guys. We're loving this car so much. As mentioned kanina, I've compared this pa nga to a Subaru WRX pa nga, which is, a sports sedan that costs twice as much as this. So, of course, in terms of power, hindi man sa comparable. Like, the WRX is 271, ito is 160 or something. But at least the point is, the driving feel is more or less like 90 or 80% of that car for 50% of its price. I'm not even comparing it na nga more or less to a Civic na nga, sa totoo lang yung sporty part na nga. I'm already comparing it to a WRX, which says a lot about this car.
Basta to sum it all up, the driving is good job, GAC.
Yeah,
diba?
yeah, this is really car of the year material for us, itong GAC Empow. Pricing for the GAC Empow starts at a little over 1.2 million pesos, which gets the base GS variant. So for that variant, just think of the mid-spec GB's equipment list, but remove the sunroof, leather upholstery, the aforementioned suite of advanced driver assistance systems, the rear aircon vents, plus the wheels are downgraded to 16 inches, and the sound system reduced from 6 speakers to just 2 speakers. Having said that, we'd recommend splurging for either the mid-spec GB or the range-topping GE. Though it must be noted that only for you 3,000 pesos separate the GB and the range-topping GE. So, based on our reviews, we do love GAC's vehicles. In fact, the Empow is probably one of the highest rated cars we've reviewed for this year. The only problem is, as good as the Empow is, wala siya ng heritage and reputation of its key competitor, the Honda Civic. So imagine if you were to pull up at a car meet, mas marami siguro magtatanong kaysa mamamangha. Heritage and reputation aside, the GAC Empow is currently one of our most favorite compact sedans in the market.